Hello, welcome back to Build It Brad. We're back working on the 37 Chevy wide body. And what we're going to do on this is we're going to make a hard formed headliner. Stay tuned to find. So this is the roof of the 37 Chevy wide body sedan. And this is what we're going to need to use for our mold for the fiberglass headliner. So what we need to do is tape this off and then put a mold release tape on top of it and start laying up our fiberglass matting. Now you can see we got half the roof covered in this blue tape, and this basically is just to protect the paint. This is just a barrier between the paint and the tape that we're going to use to be our release mold. Now we got to do the other side. Now that we got the paint safe tape on there, we're going to move on to the next layer, which is an aluminum tape that's going to act as our mold release. Let's get to it. And now we're halfway through. As you can see, it forms right to that roof pretty nicely. Now let's go do the second half. Check it out. We got it all covered with our tinfoil tape. That's going to make one nice mold. It works really well because it's thin. So when you have a couple compound curves, it flexes really nice with it. So it works really well, and then it's really nice tight fit. So we should get a really nice mold off of this. Almost time for the fiberglass. All right, we're back on this. Had to take a little bit, do some client work. But as you can see, I saved you from all the boring stuff. We finished tinning off the aluminum tape on the other half of the roof. We also put a bunch of plastic on it so that we don't drip any fiberglass resin or anything on the fresh paint, which is why we're doing all this. We got to make sure that's why we put the blue tape down. We protected the paint, and then we put the aluminum tape over that. That's mainly for the mold release. But typically you might want to do this before it's in paint, but sometimes things change and you don't always have the perfect scenario. But we're gonna start laying up some the fiberglass matting so we can get that on there. As you can see, I laid out this line, this permanent marker line. That's right before the body curves. We don't want this curve in there. And then this is gonna be where we wanna trim on the fiberglass. And this permanent marker will actually transfer to the fiberglass. So it'll help when we're cutting it after we pull it off. And you'll see it when we're gonna do one side at a time. You'll see once we pull it off what I'm talking about. But we're gonna do half at a time. It doesn't pay to do the whole roof because we're gonna have to cut it in fours, four sections anyways, because once it goes inside, it's not going to fit perfectly. So we might have to add on in certain areas, maybe in the inside, maybe in here, or trim some more areas. But we're gonna have a seam down the middle anyways because it's gonna shrink once it gets in the vehicle. We'll have to trim it, and we'll have to end up fiberglassing it back together. And same with the middle. The front and the back is gonna be longer on the outside than it is on the inside. So we'll have to do the same thing and shrink it up. But we'll go over that in detail once we get to that point. But as you can see, I just kind of drew a rough line where I want the fiberglass to stop. And we'll do that. Then on this side, 3 layers. And then we're gonna switch to the other side and do that as well. All right, let's get back to it. What's up? We're back here. We got all the fiberglass laid out. We've got this big matting, but it's gonna be too hard with all these curves to get a big piece to lay flat. So what we're gonna do is we got these bunch of these little squares cut up, and we're gonna just do little squares at a time until we fill in this whole area. It's gonna take a lot longer that way, but that way you have smaller surface areas. It flows with the curves a lot easier. Until we get to the bigger areas, then we'll use a big sheet. We'll stop periodically throughout the process and show you what I'm talking about. Let's get it. Check it out, we got our first layer all laid out nice. Now we need to do 2 more. On to the next. Check it out, there's our second layer done. Might just end here. I'm gonna see how it is when it fully dries. Welcome back. I didn't want to bore you with all the details, but we got those. We got both driver's side and passenger side quarters. We did them separately, and that worked out pretty well. Like I said, I didn't want to bore you with the details of pulling them up. They popped up pretty decently. We're going on to the back driver's side rear, and we're going to try this with the bigger piece. And then do the smaller sections back here to make up for the curve. And then repeat to the other side. Stay tuned, I'll show you when we get it all laid up. And there we go. Another section finished.